Before the first walls were raised, before families gathered under shared rooftops, before the idea of home existed as anything more than a temporary shelter against the cold, humanity stood on the edge of a quiet revolution. It began slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the soft growth of roots beneath the earth. But soon, this revolution would transform everything: our relationships, our survival, and our destiny. It was here, in the earliest gatherings of settled life, that the world's first villages were born. At the break of dawn, a faint mist clings to the grasslands. For millennia, people had migrated with the seasons, following herds, chasing the rhythm of the natural world. But now, something different stirs within these roaming tribes. They begin to pause, lingering in places where the land is generous and the rivers flow steadily. What once felt temporary begins to feel familiar. The ground that hosted them for a season becomes the ground they return to the next. And then, eventually, the ground they no longer leave. The first villagers did not appear suddenly. They emerged from countless small decisions, seeds planted intentionally near the encampment. Animals kept close rather than hunted from afar. Tools stored for future use instead of carried along winding might. Each small choice nudged humanity one step closer to a new way of living. And as these choices accumulated, something remarkable began to take shape. Permanence. Imagine one of these early villages, a scattering of huts, their walls built of mud, reeds, and timber, arranged near a riverbed or fertile plain. Smoke rises from hearths that have burned day after day, season after season. Children play in the dust while elders oversee the drying of harvested crops. Dogs, once wolves, who lingered at the edges of human camps, now sleep comfortably near doorways. The air carries sounds no nomadic camp ever knew. The repeated tapping of grinding stones, the steady rhythm of weaving, the laughter of families rooted to a place they can finally call home. In this new world, time begins to change. For nomadic groups, time flowed with the migrations of animals and the cycles of weather. But in villages, time becomes something else, something measured by planting and harvesting, by the growth of young animals, by the construction and maintenance of permanent structures. Daily life becomes predictable, even stable. And from this stability emerges creativity. People begin to specialize. Some master the art of building stronger, more durable houses. Others develop new ways to store grain, preventing precious food from spoiling over winter. Some become skilled at shaping clay into pots, while others learn to weave baskets tight enough to hold water. With stability comes innovation, and with innovation comes the beginning of craftsmanship, trade, and cultural identity. But the story of the first villages is not only one of progress, it is also a story of profound change in how humans relate to one another. In nomadic groups, decisions were made quickly and roles shifted fluidly. But in settled communities, new social structures emerge. Leadership becomes more formal. Responsibilities become clearer. Families begin to shape the land together, working side by side over months instead of days. Cooperation deepens. And with it, so do the challenges. As populations grow, villages face pressures unknown to their nomadic ancestors. Conflicts over land, water, and resources arise. Disputes must be settled not by dispersing, because dispersing is no longer an option, but by negotiation, by community decision-making, by shared customs and emerging rules. These early systems of organization plant the seeds of governance, laying the foundation for the civilizations yet to come. Yet even amid these challenges, life in the first villages offers something extraordinary: the comfort of belonging. For the first time in human history, people experience continuity memories rooted in the same landscape, seasons returning to the same fields, generations born under the same sky. A child born here grows surrounded by the echoes of their parents' labor. The walls they built, the paths they cleared, the crops they nurtured. Home becomes more than a shelter, it becomes identity. Everywhere across these early villages, stories form. Elders recount the struggles of the first families to settle here, the drought that nearly drove them away, the storm that threatened to destroy their fields, the celebrations of the first successful harvest. These stories anchor the community, binding people to one another through shared history. They create a sense of continuity that transcends individual lives. Rituals deepen as well. Families gather at communal hearths to honor ancestors who once roamed the earth. Ceremonies mark the changing of seasons, the protection of herds, the hope for bountiful harvests. Spiritual beliefs evolve, blending ancient traditions with new ones born from the rhythms of settled life. The land itself becomes sacred, not just as a source of food, but as a keeper of memory. And as night falls over the village, a kind of peace settles over the community. Fires flicker within the huts, shadows dance along the earthen walls, parents tell stories to their children, while the rest of the village quiets into sleep. This moment, simple and ordinary, represents a turning point in human history. It is the birth of community, not as a temporary gathering, but as a permanent foundation of life. The rise of villages changes every aspect of human existence. With stability comes population growth. With population growth comes cultural complexity. With cultural complexity comes the emergence of shared values, shared identities, and shared futures. These early villages are the blueprints for the towns, cities, and civilizations that will eventually span the globe. In their humble beginnings lie the roots of everything that will follow. The first marketplaces, the first communal celebrations, the first joint efforts to manage land and resources, the first experiments in governance and justice. All of these take shape in the quiet, steady rhythm of village life. The village becomes the cradle of civilization, nurturing the innovation, cooperation, and cultural depth that define the human story. And, as we look back across thousands of years, the importance of these early settlements becomes clear. They represent humanity's first great leap toward shaping the world rather than merely surviving within it. They mark the moment when people chose not just to follow the land, but to transform it. They reveal the power of community and the enduring need for belonging that still guides us today. The legacy of the first villagers lives on in every neighborhood, every community, every place where people come together to share life. Their spirit echoes in the homes we build, the traditions we preserve, and the bonds we form. They remind us that civilization began not with great monuments or powerful rulers, but with families gathering round shared fires, planting seeds in the same soil, and choosing, for the first time, to stay. If you enjoyed this journey into the origins of human settlement, consider supporting the channel. Like, subscribe, and join us as we continue exploring the great story of humanity one chapter at a time.